welcome back to my channel. My name is Alondra Elizabeth. I mentioned this a long time ago that I was going to make a video about how I outline, and since today that is literally all I'm doing for all of my classes, I figured I'd talk about it. I am updating outlines. I'm not starting from scratch. As I mentioned before, I outline every week, or I try to, updating outlines and stuff, and so the way I start off outlines is just every week I add to it based on like a synopsis of my class notes, kind of just taking out what's important, what the professors talked about more, like what they emphasized, if they like talked about something more than twice, etc. And then also things that have definitions, that are factors, things that you just kind of know that it's going to be something going to be asked for, or that carries analysis, because there are some straight definitions of something, like for contracts, like what is a contract, that's a definition that you learn at the beginning, but doesn't need to be in your outline, because that's not something you're going to be using to answer a question on an exam. Like, that's just something after a while of talking about contracts. So that's something, like, for instance, that may be in my notes but may not be in my outline. So that's kind of what I'm doing. I'm looking through my notes, trying to decide what actually needs to be in my outline, what are tools I'm actually going to use to analyze a hypothetical question on an exam. So that's kind of what I go through. And so maybe I'm going to turn over my screen real quick just so you can kind of see. And right now I'm working on criminal procedure, and this is actually something that does happen. I did this for civil procedure last semester and criminal procedure this semester, where I did update my outlines every week, but the class was just not structured very clearly for me, or etc. So even though I do have a running outline, it just doesn't make sense anymore based off what I've learned this week. So I need to actually move things around to make them fit more and easier to access in regards to how I will analyze questions. So yeah, let me show you all what that looks like. Like I said, this is like new outline because I just started it again. And so before I had it just in order of how the class is going, but this time it actually makes more sense to do it by like amendment, by like the things that we need to analyze, like, so that's the due process. And then we talked about right to counsel, so I'm gonna be putting information in there. Some cases are good since it gives you rules, so that's why some cases are in there, but not all cases are in there. Currently I'm looking at my class notes from week 2, so I'm just kind of going over and I'm trying to gauge, like, is this something that needs to go in there, so but I decided that it did, since it's already in here. So that's kind of what I'm going through. And then I also have like study group stuff, and so that we go over, so I try to incorporate that. I also do look at like physical notes that I have, because sometimes I have things on like the end that I don't necessarily include, so that's just for me to, if I'm looking at my type notes and I remember, like, wait, didn't I write something? Then I'll look at my handwritten notes. And so it's just compilation of everything. Let me look up one that I just finished. There we go. So pretty. So this is one that I just finished updating, like 3 hours ago. And so this is how it looks like. It's 3 pages and we're already 5 weeks. So I like to keep mine as short as I can get. So I talked about like your basic stuff in general, then like break it down, kind of like what different things mean, see how it's like a lot of factors and stuff, more factors, some definitions. And then I do actually do this a lot. I like leave myself comments whenever I have questions for a professor. Like, that's just stuff that I do for myself when I'm outlining, so I can know that I can get feedback. So actually keeping up with outlines is a good way to gauge what I know and what I don't know. What it is, but nobody, I mean, when I was coming in, I think I've mentioned this before in a video, that one of the things that was recommended to me in undergrad was to start outlining in undergrad. So I didn't quite know what I was doing. I just kind of stuffed things together. And so and I mentioned this in the end of the other video. That's pretty much what this is. It's just that it's still a learning curve, because as I mentioned last semester and this semester with this criminal procedure, it's about how you organize it. Like, yes, it's just basically being concise. It's adding everything together in a way that makes sense, but it has to be workable. And I think that's the difference between what I was just kind of doing randomly in college, of just literally putting everything together in one document, versus what I'm doing now, which is being a little bit more cognizant of, like, well, what needs to be used? How will I use them? Like, what pairs together? What issues do you come together, you know? And what I do a lot in my outline is, like, do a little attack plans when we finish up a unit. Like, well, okay, so these are the things I need to know. How do I use them? If a question is this, like, which one of these are activated, etc. So yeah, that's kind of what outlining looks like. It takes a lot of time because you have to be thinking about it, and so it's actually a really great way to review, which is why I try to update every week, because it's just, one, the content I'm adding is still fresh, so I can be more accurate about putting it in my outline, versus, like, if I was doing it at the end, having to, like, go back and rethink, like, what exactly did this mean? And, like, yeah, it's good review, but it's also just a lot of work and stuff that should have been reviewed kind of consistently. Like right now, I mean, this is week 5 and we have midterms in 2 weeks, so it's a good thing for me that I'm kind of rebuilding criminal procedure, since I didn't quite like the way it was looking. Like, I wasn't going to be using the old one. It just wasn't working for me, which is why I'm making a new one, and this is a way to review as well. So that's the vibe. That's how I outline. I hope this was kind of helpful, or at least a little bit more explanatory than any other ways you've heard outlining. If it was not, let me know. If you have any questions, I'll try my best to explain it a different way, but this is pretty much it. So yeah, thank you for watching, and hope you enjoyed this video. See you in the next one.